Hi everybody, welcome to our first video lesson here for the IBAA-SL math course. I hope you all are doing well. This first section we're going to do this week is section 9A. So chapter 9 is all about trigonometric equations, and what we're going to do is do a couple lessons, probably 2 lessons a week, and 2 assignments per week as well. So, and I'll have all those posted in the modules. If you're watching this video, you probably already see that. And as always, if you have any questions on things, please feel free to put something in the discussion boards or drop me an email, and I'll get back to those as quick as I can, and we'll make some adjustments and things along the way if we have to. So we're going to get started with, this is section 9A1, Trigonometric Equations. So you can follow along in the book if you want to print out these notes. I will have them posted in our notes sections as well. So, or if you want to make your own notes along the way, please feel free. So we're starting off with, I've got this trigonometric graph, right? I've got this graph y is equal to cosine x. And this is one that we're familiar with, right? It's my cosine graph. You'll notice the x-axis on the bottom doesn't have our normal pi over 2 and pi and things like that it normally does. But if you'll notice, if you look closely, those are still there, right? Because here's the bottom of the graph, and that's about approximately 3.14, so that's about approximately pi. And this one right here, it maxes out at about 6.2, so that's going to be 2 pi, right? And so you can see the basic cosine graph is there. So what we want to do is, we want to solve this equation. We're looking to see where does cosine of x equal 0.4 between the interval 0 to 10. So obviously we have the interval 0 to 10 right here, so that's fine. And we want to know, where does the cosine equal 0.4? Well, that 0.4 is the y value, right? So what I'm looking for is, where does the cosine of x have a y value of 0.4? So what I can do is, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. So let's see. This looks like it's divided up into tenths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. And I'm going to draw a line right at y equals 0.4. I'm going to go all the way across the screen. So let's make it a red line. And we're going to start at 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. I'm going to draw all the way across. And there's my line, and this line right here is y is equal to 0.4. Now, where does cosine of x equal 0.4? Well, that's going to be all the intersections where the cosine graph crosses that red line, right? So it's going to be right about here, right about here, and right about here. And those are the 3 values between 0 and 10 that it crosses the line. So my solution for this equation is going to be that x is approximately equal to what? That looks like it's about 1.2. The next point, x is approximately, I'm going to say 5.1. And the other one looks like it's about at 7.5. Those are approximate values, right? Because I'm just looking at this based on the graph. So, and if you look down here, we've got the solution from the book. They did something similar. They had 1.2, 5.1. Oh, and they had 7.4. So it's a little bit different. Again, it's because we're just approximately reading the graph. And that's where the value of cosine x equals, we solved the solution of cosine x equals 0.4 for the interval x between 0 and 10 using the graph. Great, let's move on. Next thing, could I do the exact same idea of looking at the intersections of graphs using technology? So I'm going to use my graphing calculator. So I'm going to start off by using the TI-84 and show you a screenshot of that. If you don't have a TI-84, you can use Desmos, which is on your on the Clever homepage, and I'll show you that here on my iPad in just a couple minutes. So what do we do? So we want to solve this equation: 2 sine x minus cosine x equals 4 minus x, and we want to solve that for the interval of x is between 0 and 2 pi. So number 1, make sure your calculator is set to radians. And then number 2, go ahead and set your window. And if you remember to set your window on your TI-86, you press the window key. And here, go ahead and set your x min, x max, y min, and y max, as it says here. And if you want to hit pause, go ahead and do that on the video. And you can go ahead and set those. Okay, next we want to go ahead and graph our equations, see the intersections. Well, what we're going to do is let's graph each side of the equation separately. So in my calculator, I'm going to look at graphing the left-hand side and the right-hand side. And that's really what I did. If you look back up here on this example, didn't I really graph y equals cosine x, and then I also graphed y equals 0.4. Those are and I looked at the intersection of those two graphs. So I had the cosine x graph and I had the y equals 0.4, and then those intersection points were my solutions. So I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to look at these two graphs. I'm going to graph 2 sine x minus cosine x, and I'm also going to graph 4 minus x. I'm going to graph each side of the equation separately. So go ahead and press the y equals button and go ahead and enter those two in and hit pause on the video, and I'll wait for you to do that. Okay, if you put them both in your equation, put both equations in your calculator and hit graph, you should see a couple graphs that look like this. This right here is my 2 sine x minus cosine x, and then this graph right here is my 4 minus x. Great, so far? All right, so let's look at the intersections for those. So how do I find the intersections? What I'm looking for is this point right here, this point right here, and this point right here. I'm looking at the x values as to where those intersections occur. So the way to do that is press the second key and then press the trace or the calc button. So second calc, and then go down to number 5, which is intersect. And when you do that, you are going to be back on the graphs, and it's going to say first curve, and just go ahead and press enter because that's the first curve of y1, and then it's going to say second curve, and then you're just going, it's going to up the top say, it should say y2 equals 4 minus x, press enter again, and then it says guess. And then what I want you to do is move the arrows, use the arrows to move the cursor somewhere right around this point. And if you do and press enter, it should say x is approximately equal to 1.8167, etc., right? And that's going to be the first point that you see. That one's right there. And then if you do the same thing again for this point and this point, you're going to get two other x values. You're going to get this one right here is the 3.27 that you see listed here on the screen. And then when you do it for that last point, you should get x equals 5.806 for each of the x values. And those are my solutions. I'll give you a second to check all three of those out. Go ahead, hit pause on the video if you need to. All right, so the solutions, as I mentioned, are x is approximately 1.82, 3.28, and 5.81. And how did we do that? We solved our equation by taking the left-hand side and putting that in, taking the right-hand side and putting that in, and then solving the equations for looking at the intersections of both graphs that we have on the screen at one given time. And that's it. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to check out these problems from sections 9A1, oops, and that's a typo, that should say 9A2, not 11A2, 9A1 and 9A2. So it's numbers 1A, 2B, and 4A, and then also on sections 9A2, it is exercises 1A and B, 2A and B, and number 4. And once you submit those, now what you can do is you can type them. The easiest way to do that is to write those out on a sheet of paper and then take a picture and submit it, or if you want to type it up in a Word document and submit it. And I will have an assignment on eCampus that you go ahead and it's going to ask you to submit a document. So you can either take a picture of what you're doing and submit the picture, or you can open up a Word document and type in your answers on the Word document. It's a little bit tougher, I know, with math to type things up and do it that way. If for some reason you can't get the assignment to work, let me know if you have a question. Worst case, you can always just take a picture and email it to me. And that's going to be the first of 2 assignments this week. And go ahead and check out eCampus for the second video and the second assignment for this week. And if you have any questions, please post them on the discussion board under the April 6th discussion page, and I'll be happy to answer questions, or feel free to email me if you'd like to do that as well. All right, thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon.